All right. Listen, for some of you, it's we're back. For others of you, hey, everybody. Welcome to Conversations for the Soul. Tameka Shelone here, aka the Soul Practitioner and best-selling author of From Trauma to Triumph, Healing the Unspoken Wounds. I hope you've gotten your copy, ebook, paperback, hardcover, wherever books are sold. Hope you have yours. Listen, I'm excited. I see those of you who are joining us and chime in right on back in. I'm really excited on tonight to have a special guest with me for the very first time. I met this young lady several months ago. She was on my cousin Sharon's platform and shared her story. And I was like, I have got to sit and have conversation with her. Y'all give me a minute. I want to pull in all my folk on all my pages. All right, I think we're good to go. And so I met her several months ago, and Conversations for the Soul is really an extension of my new book, From Trauma to Triumph. It's an extension, and I'm going to do a series of conversations with women and men who have experienced trauma in their lives, some sort of traumatic experience. And yet they have overcome and have made it over to the other side triumphantly. And so I'm starting this series, and we'll run it until the Lord says otherwise. But I believe that stories heal, that stories bring hope and transformation. And through our stories and our conversations, just really informal, having dialogue, having conversation, sharing, it feeds our soul, because once we see that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb, but also the word of our testimonies. And we have testimonies that will help others to overcome. So I'm really excited to have Shenita here with me on today. This conversation is going to be food for the soul, and I'm ready to dive right in. So let me first welcome and say hello to you, Shenita. Thanks so much for being here. I'm glad that yes, I'm really glad that you were able to carve out some time. I know that your world is busy, and so being able to kind of sit and just have a conversation that will help feed the soul of our listeners, but also I'm sure it's going to help feed my soul, because I'm ready to dive right in. Shenita is from North Carolina. She is an author. She is a life coach. She is a speaker, and listen, I had to hurry and grab her book, and I started reading this right here. Not just another pretty face. I mean, gorgeous. This face on this cover is gorgeous, but she titled this just not just another pretty face. So I'm ready to dive in and hear all about that. But Shenita, would you tell us just a little bit more about who Shenita is?
Okay. Well, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, and I'm a grandmother. I'm a social worker. I graduated last year from East Carolina University.
Woo!
I work for Child Protective Service. I'm an investigator for children who are alleged neglected or abused. So I go and I investigate those allegations. I
Wow.
love to write. I love to write. I love children. They're my passion. And I do everything I can to prevent or keep them from being mistreated.
Wow. That I heard you say that's your passion, children. Love, love, love children. Your passion, but also your purpose and your call. And you shared that you have children yourself, and that you're a grandmother, and your love for children. That's such, and it's just amazing that you shared, your love for children, and that's your passion. I don't have any biological children, yet I have such a heart for children. And so that area of investigating, allegations of neglect and abuse, it really just does something to my heart when children are abused and neglected and mistreated. It really does something to my heart. So kudos to you for having not just that passion, but it being your purpose, your call, and you are driven. What do you think Um, where did that passion for children come from?
I believe it came from me and my childhood.
Mm,
I always like I did certain things like for a cry for help, and like the doctors, the teachers, social workers, other adults, like those cries went unheard. So I said when I got older, I wanted to help children and make sure that they didn't have to go through what I went through, and I wanted to be their voice.
wow, that's huge. Tell us about what Shenita as a child went through that really pushed you to this place of being a voice for other children.
Okay, well, I was molested when I was 7. It started when I was 7, and it continued on for several years. Then
Mm,
I went and I had to go stay with my dad, and it happened again with another relative. So after that, I became like very bitter, angry. Like I was mad with everybody because I felt like no one loved me. Everybody who I felt like was supposed to protect me, like they either hurted me or they didn't protect me as I felt like they should. So at 13, I was praying for a baby where I should have been, praying to make the cheerleading squad or the basketball team. I said, Lord, I said, just give me my own baby. I said, if you give me my own child, I promise I'm gonna love my baby. My baby gonna love me. And I did it. I at 13 I planned to have a baby. Like I planned it from start to finish. And
wow.
so after that, I went through a period of time where I was still looking for that love. So once I got my baby, I loved him. He loved me. It was great. But it was a feeling there that I still couldn't get that I needed. And
Mm,
so I ended up having 4 children. By the time I was 20, I had 4 children.
mm,
I got to the 8th grade, finished the 8th grade and some of the ninth grade, and I quit. And so here I am, a single mom, no job, no education, trying to raise 4 children. But I made myself a promise I was not going to take my children through what I've been through. And so
mm.
I ended up going back to school, getting my education, getting my degree, GED, and then I just kept going. But during that time, I'm just giving y'all a little bit of the skeleton, putting a little bit of meat on the skeleton.
Uh-huh.
During that time, because I didn't I wasn't old enough to work, so I did what I had to do for my children. And when I say at that time, I was a teenager doing what I had to do for my
Mm,
children. And the system itself failed me. I felt like the system really did fail me. So after I did that, I said I wanted to go back. I was in this program, the Family Self-Sufficient program, and
mhm.
somebody had told me about it. And so I applied for that. And when I graduated college with my associate's degree, I had like almost $20,000 in that extra account. And a lot of people don't know about those different programs and stuff. But if you're really dedicated and determined to not be on the system and to move forward out there, it's resources out there for you. You just have to put in the work and be determined to get it done.
Wow. That was a whole mouthful and a whole lot. I heard first child at 13 because you prayed and made a promise that if you have this child at 13 that you were going to love him, that he was going to love you. By 20, 4 children,
Hmm.
had not finished high school.
Nope.
So your story, just that piece, that's just that piece of the story alone, and how you were able to, but you also said something, you made a promise to yourself and to your children and to yourself that this was not how it was going to end. With 4 children at 20 years old, no high school degree, no high school diploma, but you were determined. What drove that determination that you were
My
going to be?
my children. And I wanted to break that cycle. Like I didn't want to just be on the system and collect welfare and just have
Mm,
somebody tell me who I can come to my house and what I can do. I don't like contentment. So I was determined not to be that person.
wow. Wow. That's huge. And that's worth really celebrating. That's worth celebrating and saying, and just in that, because we don't know who's watching, whether it's live or the replay, but that piece and part of your story, can you in this moment speak to the 20-year-old? Can you speak to a 13-year-old? Can you speak to the 16-year-old? The 13 and 16-year-old who may have experienced abuse, neglect, a troubled childhood and past.
I would tell them you can't change your past. You can't change what happened to you, but you still can create one hell of a future. Like you can't go and say, "Oh, I blame this person for that." You can't hold on to that because if
Mm.
you do, it will consume you.
Oh, that's so good. You can't change what happens to you, but you can create one hell of a future. And that just really that to me speaks to the mindset that says, I know what happened to me. I know what I experienced. I know what I went through, but it doesn't have to end like that. And you are a living testimony of creating one hell of a future. And you're still creating. Tell us about not just another pretty face. I know you shared a little bit about your childhood, but where did this title come from? I know you said you love to write, and I started reading this. I just got it the other day, and I started reading. Amazing writer, beautiful woman, and I'm always wondering where does the title come from?
Mhm. I was working at a hospital and I was talking to one of my coworkers and I was telling him, I want to be a author. I was writing the book, my healing story. I wanted to help others. And he's asked me, he said, what are your credentials? And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you have to have a title behind your name for somebody to believe in you. And I said, huh? I said, that's not true because, I was looking at um TD Jakes and Lisa Nichols and all of them. I was like, they don't have degrees in English or, to be able to write and tell their story. They're just
Uh-huh.
a good speaker and that's their purpose. So he said, unless you go and get some credential behind your name, you will only be you would just be a pretty face with a sad story. And
Wow.
that when I tell you that crushed my soul, and then he got up and left from the table. And I'm sitting there looking like, did he just say that to me? Like, ouch. But that motivated me because I know that I'm not just another pretty face.
Wow. Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? Listen, you all, welcome to Conversations for the Soul. It's Tameka Shelone with my guest, Shenita James. I'm eating up her story. Like, I'm just sitting here eating this up. And feel free to drop your comments in the chat, as well as if you have questions as we go along. I'll be able to see those questions and we can entertain them. But hold up. Dude said, if you don't have those credentials behind your name, you will just be another pretty face with a sad story.
hmm And to anyone who's listening, don't get caught up in titles. Don't get education is good, it's nice to have, but don't get caught up in titles. Your purpose, your passion, and your gift will make room for you without a title.
Listen, let the church say amen, and the audience and those who are listening. I need you to say that one more time. I need you to look in that camera and tell, because there is somebody who is watching and who's listening, and they're feeling stuck and stagnant, and they are not walking in purpose and their gift. Why? Because they are competing and comparing themselves to those who have those credentials and those titles. And guess what? Tell them again, Shenita.
Your gift. Don't get caught up into the titles.
I just lost your volume. Oh no, I can't hear you. It might be your AirPods. You know what? This devil is working tonight, but he is defeated. And I just decree and declare right now, we're going to get through this conversation tonight. You can still hear me.
I can hear you well.
You are back. Sometimes I just got to talk to him. We're letting him know you don't run nothing. He is getting on my nerves tonight. That is so powerful that your purpose and your passion, your gift, they will make room for you. Like,
It will make room for you.
oh, Shalonda, hey girl, she said amen to that. And that is powerful. And I tell people that all the time, and they're thinking, oh, well, you have degrees and you have certifications and you done went to college and you have this and you have that. And, this, I can see why that. I'm like, absolutely not, because that scripture alone, my gift, it doesn't say my credentials and my degrees and my titles. And I get it all the time, Shenita. People are like, oh, what's your title? What should I put on? I'm like, Tameka Shelone. And they think I'm playing. I'm so serious. Like, Tameka Shelone, just call me Tameka. We good. Your gift, your purpose, your passion will make
Mhm.
it. That was so powerful. And I'm telling you, for some reason, like that is sitting in this space right through here. That messed me up. And I can see why it motivated you to press forward. When that man said, you will be another pretty face with a sad story. He tried to
Yep.
sow that seed into you, and you said, no, sir.
Mm-mm.
Powerful,
Was not having it.
powerful. So, just out of that and your response, I'm not just another pretty face. It's one woman's riveting tale of survival. Tell us a little bit more about Shenita's survival.
Okay. So, like I said, I went through a lot during my childhood. So, if you're not getting treated for or therapy for trauma, it carries on into your adult life. So, here I
Hold
am.
on,
I'm an
hold on, hold
adult
on,
and I'm
hold on,
raising.
hold on, hold on, hold on. If what? If what? If you're not doing what?
If you're not dealing with it, like if you're not getting therapy or healing from your trauma, it's gonna carry you into your adult life. So here I am, grown with children, and I was raising children from a broken place. And I didn't, excuse me, realize that unconsciously I was teaching those children how to be broken too, because they looking at mama being broken, they looking at mama being bitter, and they was repeating those same patterns. So here I am, I'm still going from relationship to relationship. I was breaking up with the person, but I wasn't breaking up with my pattern. So I'm like, wait a minute, I have to do a self-reflection. I don't want to be ugly. I don't want to be mad with the world. I'm tired of having to put up a wall and not letting people get close to me because I don't trust them. I don't know their motive. So I went on a self-reflection journey. And when
Mm,
I tell you, I shut everything down, everything and everybody, and I just start reflecting on myself. And then I start to see me like I was looking for other people to save me from me. And I didn't realize that I was the only one that can do that. I was the only one that could save me because what I was dealing with, it was rooted inside of me. So as
mm,
I went on that journey, layers started falling off, and I started becoming whole, and I could see my purpose clearer. Like it was like I had a vision that I couldn't see before. So the things that I was settled for, like being a mistress, a side chick, I went
mm.
back and I looked at that. I said, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that I negotiated my worth for a temporary feeling. And like I
Wow.
said, even though I was doing those things and repeating those same patterns, the main character, which was the broken me, kept showing up. So I
Wow.
had to come to a place where I had to discover who I was. And once
Mm,
I discovered who I was, it was over. It was game over. I'm not negotiating. I'm not being nobody option. Like I know who I am. So when you come to me, when you step to me, you better step correct and have your stuff in order. And that goes with job, friendship, relationship. It doesn't matter. And during
Wow.
that healing journey, let me tell you, on that journey, it was very emotional. Like it
Mhm.
was like a roller coaster. Because some days I be up, some days I be down. Some things that I thought that I was healed from, I got exposed to, and I really wasn't healed because when you conceal yourself or when you confine, you don't know until you get back around it that you'll know if you're healed or not. And
Mhm.
all of that was okay. It was part of the journey. And even in the healing process, during the journey, it's a process.
Yeah.
Sometimes you would discover like your wounds are really deep. The ones that's really deep, you'll never forget. You still have to go back sometimes and look at them and just nourish them a little bit and say, it's okay. You survived it. It's going to be all right. And then
Mhm.
some days it's okay not to be okay. And
Yeah.
all of that is okay.
Yes. Oh, this is so good. This is so good. This is so good. You said a couple of things. I had to drop. I had to type something in. I was breaking up with the person, but not the pattern. That is so powerful. And this is what you were able to realize and understand because of the self-reflection journey that you had to go on. So that self-reflection, I talk a lot about that, and why it's so important, because self-reflection allows a level of awareness to come out. Like you become aware of who it is that you really are when you take a moment to reflect. And you took more than a moment to go on this journey and say, wait a
I
minute, I
did.
need, and that is something that I encourage us to do often. Like take a minute, and people say like, you're really self-reflective, and I'm like, yes, because that is how I become aware and more aware. And like you said, taking that time, I love this piece here, right? Because this is what happened even in my story and my journey last year, is saying, okay, why am I successful in all these other areas but relationships? Something is just not right. Something is not right. And I had to, out of my self-reflection and becoming aware, and say, yeah, I need to sit and talk to somebody about this. Right. And it's so crazy. You're a social worker, you're a counselor, you work with children, you work with women, you work with people, and the same thing. And I'm like, okay, the coach and counselor is coaching and counseling others. I said, but it is something that I need to figure out about me. And it was just the most amazing thing that has happened, to really go through your process of discovery and rediscovery. And I think what you said is really good. You discover who you are, right? You are discovering those pieces and parts of you that were broken, that were wounded, but it also gives you an opportunity to discover who you really are, who you are at your core. And you said it, two words. I think I'm gonna give me a shirt that says it. Game over. She said, y'all, when she discovered who it is that she is, she said, game over. You cannot come to her any kind of way. You can't come to her and talk about, oh, you fine and your shape is the bomb, Coca-Cola bottle. Like, game over. Game over.
Game over. And you attract what you are. So if you're
Mm,
broken, you're gonna attract broken people.
yes. And I say it,
Yeah.
and there are those, who have their, perspective and their philosophy, but I still believe that. I believe that broken people break people, and that heal people help heal people, right? And we do. Oftentimes we attract who we are, and it says, it's that piece that says, no, I want to attract, this amazing man, that this, and it's really the pieces and parts that are still in us. That's what is drawing. That's what we draw. That's what we attract. And that's true. I believe that.
Mhm.
So, your story of trauma has turned into an amazing triumphant story, and it's still, the chapters are still being written, I think, right? New chapters are still being written. Another book is going to come from just your experiences and what you are encountering in this moment. Tell us just a little bit more. Tell us, where are you now, Shenita? Now I know it's game over. She's discovered who she is. Where
Okay, so when it was time to write I got down to the last two chapters of my book, and I lost my boyfriend to a fatal car accident that crushed my soul. Um, but now I'm dating Shenita. I'm in love with Shenita. I'm not really into dating right now. I'm not doing that. I am working on my next book, Healing the Wounded Heart. It'll be out soon, y'all. So make sure y'all look for it when it get ready to launch. And I'm just working on coaching and still working on me, becoming a better version of myself. That's what I strive to do every day.
wow, that was a mouthful too. Um, so your boyfriend, he passed away when? How long ago was this fatal car accident?
June 15th of last year. Yeah, June
So
15th of last year.
okay, June 15th of last year, you lost someone very close to you, your significant other. And what you
And
said that
actually, I was mad with God. I had became upset with God because I'm like, God, how can you take me from a place that
mm,
I was broken? You build me up only
mm,
to break me down again. And I couldn't understand it. Like, I'm like, why would you do that to me? And
wow.
even though, I still don't understand it, I know that he has purpose for pain for purpose. So I know that he would get the glory out of it. And even in the midst of me feeling alone, I know that God is still with me.
That's, that's really, I really appreciate your transparency in that place and space of vulnerability to say, I was mad with God. I was angry. I was mad with God. That's powerful. I remember going through my divorce and I was mad with God. I was angry. And people were just like, oh, just pray. I'm not praying. I don't even have anything to say to him. That's how, so I know that. And some people don't understand that. It's like, oh, how can you be mad with God and you a preacher, a woman of God? Easily, because we're still human. And I think there's that human part of us, our
Amen.
humanity, that says there are times that we do get angry and that we do get upset. But you said something powerful, is that there's purpose in our pain, and that Shanita's gonna be okay, and that God is still gonna get the glory. And even in stuff that we don't understand, even in stuff that we question, to know that God still got us, and that He's gonna get glory out of this. You said something powerful. I'm dating Shanita. I'm just gonna keep working on Shanita, and that's powerful in and of itself, because you've experienced so much. And to get to a place, some people, when in fact they are hurt, they're wounded, they're going through loss, they're going through grief, they're going through life, a lot of times as women, we're trying to find the next man to run to. We're trying to find that that comfort and that peace in a man. It's powerful in that you're saying, I'm not even dating right now, I'm dating me. And I'm loving on me. That's powerful. You all can drop any questions that you have for Shanita, as we continue to have this conversation. She's working on another book. Yes, Healing the Wounded Heart. Yeah, that I'm looking forward to finishing up Not Just Another Pretty Face. For those who are listening, talk a little bit about your healing journey. Like, what is it? I know we had talked offline, And there are some people who don't even realize that they're wounded, don't even realize that they're hurt, and that they've been traumatized because they've become numb and it has become normal. So when it is, can you speak to that?
Okay, a lot of times, so to begin the healing process, you have to acknowledge that you're broken, accept the fact that you're broken, and be willing to heal. A lot of times people don't want to heal because it became normal to them, and they don't want to go back and relive those events. They want to block it out and put it in, way back. But what it does, it keeps building on each other and on top of each other, and sooner or later you're going to have to deal with it. You don't want to know that, a lot of people ask me, how did your mom feel about, you putting the business out there in a book? Well, baby, my mother was okay with it because she said it was not only healing for me, it was healing for her. It was a learning experience for her, and hopefully it would heal other women out there who made mistakes. And
Mm,
one thing I said in the book, my mom, I realized later as I got, went on my journey and as I got grown, that my mom couldn't help me because she couldn't help herself. So a
wow.
lot of times we're repeating a generational curse and generational cycles, and we're wondering why, like, why mama didn't do this or why daddy didn't do this. Mama and daddy couldn't help themselves. Mama and
Mm,
daddy had an addiction. Mama and daddy had trauma that they didn't get healed from. So because they didn't get healed from their trauma, they pass it on to their children. And especially in the African American community, we're taught that what goes on in our house, stay in the house. So you don't get to go out there and talk to other people about what's inside, what's going on. And you holding all that anger, that hurt inside of you. So the next person that didn't even ask for is getting all that energy, all that negative energy you putting into somebody else. So
yeah.
to my listeners, if you're broken, go on a self-reflection journey. Like, just do self-reflection, and it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to get therapy. It's nothing wrong with that. We got to break this cycle. We have to.
Yes, yes, and yes. I say it all the time. It's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to not do anything about it. And so we are advocates for, mental health and for therapy. I say it often that you can have prayer and practical coping skills. You can have God and a therapist, right? It doesn't have to be either or. It can be
Mhm.
and both, right? And so I think that that's really important. You said something in starting the healing journey that I also talk about in my book, and you said you got to first acknowledge it, right? If in fact we're going to heal, you have to acknowledge. You got to acknowledge it. You got to acknowledge that something is not right, right? Acknowledge that pain does exist, that whatever the experience was, that it did hurt, that the betrayal made me feel XYZ, that this abuse, that this loss, whatever it is, acknowledging that this did wound you and that there is a level of pain associated with it. And so I talk about, in, in order to even get it started, one is admitting that you're hurting, inviting God and the Holy Spirit into the process. Because a lot of times the wounds are so deep, as you stated, that we begin to pull back these layers. We don't want to face and have to go back in our memory and in our mind
Mhm.
and relive that, because it is painful. And so I often talk about inviting God, who's going to give you strength, who's going to guide you through it, but also invoking the Holy Spirit on this journey. The Holy Spirit is who gives you the strength, right? Because we're self-reflecting, which means we got to go back, and we don't want to do that. And we definitely can't do it by ourselves. You try to do it by yourself,
Mhm.
is very difficult to do and to really get the outcome of healing that's needed. And then making it a priority, which does require getting that level of help and support that you need to journey through, because it is a journey. this whole healing piece is a
Peace.
journey. It's, and I say it, it's levels to this, is layers and on top of layers and on top of layers. So
It's layers.
it's layers to this. And once you start peeling back, you'll discover there are some other pieces and parts. But talk to the beauty of healing, like on the other side. And I think if we talk more about like this beautiful place and space where you are no longer living one a lie, or I talk about the walking dead, because anything that we say we take into the grave and you're still alive, that means that thing is still in you and you're walking around with a piece of dead in you. So that has to be weighty, that has to be heavy, right? So talk about that great victory and that triumph. Like,
It's amazing feeling. Like for me, people, and I'm not telling it nobody by any means to put their business out there, but for me, it was like I don't have no skeletons in my closet. Like you can open it and nothing is gonna fall out because I put it out there for myself, and I'm willing to, accept it because I can't go back and change none of that. But
right.
I released all that hurt, so now I'm walking in purpose. I'm walking with confidence, but more importantly, I'm walking in peace. And when
Yes.
I say peace, it's a wonderful feeling. Like it's a feeling that it's just, but once you get a sense of, if you ever been broken, when you receive peace, you will maintain that or do whatever you got to do to maintain and keep your peace. And you will not allow nobody to come and interrupt your peace. You will not
Yeah.
negotiate your peace because you will put a stop to it before it even gets started. So it's just like it's so much that comes with just being at peace. You can see things clearly, you can think clearly. It's like I just, it's just so much joy with
Yeah.
having peace. And the things that used to bother you, baby, you begin to walk over it with your head hung high. So peace is a wonderful feeling.
Yes. And that's one of the things that is so true. And I tell people, just like, okay, what's the benefits of this, healing? Why? And some people, right, have already become extremely comfortable with where it is that they are. And they've said, I don't even want to deal. It is what it is. That happened whenever it happened. I don't want to deal with it. But I promise you, you're not living in the fullness of peace. I call it that uninterrupted peace, that unspeakable joy. Like, okay, this thing is out. Like, here it is, release. And we hear it all the time. These three words: let it go. Let it go. Oh, just let it go. But if you have not processed through what needs to be processed in order to let it go, I promise you there's a piece you're still holding on to. But when you get to a place where you are like free and whom the sun sets free, like for real, gotta let that
Baby.
thing down. And you can talk about whatever you want to talk about from my past or my experiences or whatever. It's all good because that thing is off in me now, right? It's above my head. It's, yeah, and that's that peace, Inga, that surpasses all understanding. Uh-huh. And it's real. Like we can really live that. Now, are we saying that this journey is easy? Absolutely not. It is not. You talked about it being very emotional. It is. You're gonna cry, you're gonna feel all kinds of emotions on the journey, but it's part of the release. It is part of the release when you're going through your healing journey, and you got to uproot that stuff, get it out, and tears are going to fall. You are going to feel away. But it is, and I tell people all the time, think about the goal that's in mind, and that's getting to the place of peace that Shenita and I are talking about, that freedom, that joy that says, you know what, I don't even have to. Yeah, I'm so free. So free. If you want to experience that level of peace and joy, like for real, I love Shenita says, game over. Like, don't come for me. I've been through too much and I done let some stuff go. Inga says it's not easy, and it's not. As we prepare to close out, I posed a question on social media a couple of days ago about forgiveness, about forgetting, about expressing feelings. So the question was, when you have been hurt, you've experienced hurt, which of the three are the hardest for you, the most challenging for you to do? And the options were: one, forgive, forgive them; two, forget what they did; or three, express your feelings. When you've been hurt, which is the hardest, most difficult for you to do? One, forgive them, the person who hurt you, betrayed you, abused you. Forget what they did. Three, express your feelings. So
For
I'm going to
me,
put it to you.
it was to forgive them. Because let me tell you something, hurt people. So when you hurt me, like how could you do this to me? How could I forgive you for that? But then I had to realize that forgiveness wasn't for them. It
That's
was for
right.
me. So I wouldn't I like to say what's on the inside of you is gonna come out. So if
Mhm.
you got hurt, anger, and all that stuff inside of you, it's gonna come out. So if I got unforgiveness spirit and it's inside of me, then it's gonna show because I'm gonna be bitter. So I think the hardest part is forgiving them. You gotta go and forgive somebody who doesn't even deserve it.
Mm,
But it's not for them, it's for you.
that's so good. Forgiving someone who doesn't deserve it, but how about even forgiving someone who has not even apologized, who have not even acknowledged their wrong to apologize and still have to forgive? Why? Because you said it. Forgiveness is not about the other person, but it's for us. It's for you. And when we shift our mindset, I believe wholeheartedly that we are transformed by the renewing of our minds. And when it is that our minds are renewed, transformation can take place. And I think that when we understand that I am not forgiving that person for that person, I am forgiving you, even if you don't apologize. I gotta forgive you for me. This is a part of that my healing process and my release. But you can't release what you continue to hold on to. So if you continue to hold on to that anger and that bitterness, and you hold on to, you know, all the stuff that's on the inside of you, then you are not going to be able to release it. And I make sure that I make it clear, even in From Trauma to Triumph, about that forgiveness piece, is that forgiveness not only is not about the other person, but it's for you. It does not condone or excuse the behavior that that person did. It does not condone or excuse the behavior. Forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. It does not mean that we got to reconcile. It means that I forgive you because I need to release you in order for me to be released, in order for me to receive what it is that I ultimately want, was is the healing.
Mhm.
So that's good on the forgiveness. Now let me tell you what my response was. And so for those who responded, I'll tell you mine is actually number three, which is expressing how I feel. So, for those who have hurt, betrayed, whatever the case was, it was most difficult for me to express how I felt or express how I feel. And so, suppressing those emotions was my go-to, right? I may cuss you out. I may go off from 0 to 1,000. I'm ready to fight, but I'm not expressing how it actually made me feel. Yeah. So I'm going to talk more about that one. Most people selected number 2, which is forget what they did. And that forgiveness and forgetting, I talk about it in the book. And I ask the question, even if forgetting is difficult, do you think it's possible? And so I'm going to pick up, and I know you and I have talked about some things, and we're going to have more conversations coming up on another platform. And so I'm looking forward to that. But I did want us to kind of talk and end a little bit about the forgiveness piece and how that plays out in our healing process and healing journey, and what that looks like in getting to a place where you can forgive even when someone doesn't apologize for it, and what that really looks like. And the forgetting piece, our time is about up, so I can't dig into that, but I am going to spend some time on Saturday morning for about an hour talking more about forgiving and forgetting. And that I believe it is possible. Is it easy? Absolutely not, but it's possible. And it starts with the change of mindset.
Change your mind.
That's what it starts with. So we're getting ready to sign off. Any parting words from you? I really appreciate you spending a few moments. We had those technical difficulties, but you surely did drop some gems, and you just through your story. We really appreciate that. And so, any parting words that you would want to leave as it relates to healing and survival and overcoming our personal traumas?
I just want to say, like, we all are unique, in our own way. We all are beautiful, wonderfully made. Don't let anybody else change your character or who you are. Like I said, a lot of times, so many people, I ask them, "What do you like to do?" or "Who are you?" And it saddens me because they don't know. Because they don't know because they done been broken and had to be somebody for so many years that, like me, I didn't know who I was. Like if you
Right?
would have asked me that, I was so broken I didn't know. So, but once I began to heal and went on my healing journey, it's like, wow, like I was really a butterfly.
Yeah.
I was waiting to just blossom. And we can't do that. So just love yourself. Like you cannot love somebody else until you love yourself. And when you really fully love yourself unconditionally, you won't accept foolishness from nobody because you
Yeah.
already know, like, I love me more than I love you. And a lot of times, especially us as women, we love our mate, or we want to be loved by a man so bad that we love him more than we love ourselves. And when I say that, it's because the things that we accept, the things that we allow just to say, I have a man,
Hmm.
and that's you we got to discover that having peace of a man, having a peace of mind is better than having any man at all. So I would
Yeah.
just say love yourself unconditionally. If you're broken, if you in a place, if you in the valley right now, appreciate the valley because it's in the valley where you will discover your light. But spend that time in the valley to figure out why you in the valley.
Mm,
Because one lesson builds on another lesson, and you're not gonna be able to go to the next chapter in your life until you learn the lesson. So, especially like in relationships, we keep wondering why our next relationship keep mimicking the one that the previous one, after that, it's because we're repeating the same pattern. So get
mhm.
the lesson, utilize the lesson, apply the lesson so you can move on to the next chapter of your life. I love
Yes.
y'all.
Oh my goodness. Thank you
I
so
do.
much, Shenita. That was, I mean, I love the closing. Love yourself. Spend some time in the valley to learn the lesson. Because if we don't learn the lesson, we will repeat it. Those cycles and patterns will be repeated if they are not broken. And so finding ourselves, loving ourselves, and understanding what it is, learning what it is that we're supposed to learn while we're down there in that valley. Or we want to be on the mountaintop. We want to get to the mountaintop, but you're not going to get there until you deal with that valley, that low place, and heal in that place and learn what it is. I love that. Thank you so much, y'all. Shenita, it has been wonderful spending time. I want to drop your website here for those who are tuned in and even watching the replay. You can get your copy of Not Just Another Pretty Face by Shenita James. Go to IamShenitaJames.com. IamShenitaJames.com. Y'all go and sell her out. Get her book, Not Just Another Pretty Face. And her story is transforming lives. Grab a copy of Not Just Another Pretty Face. And as you know, From Trauma to Triumph, Healing the Unspoken Wounds is out. It is doing extremely well. I want you to go ahead and get a copy of this as well. These are your tools. Shenita, so many of us in the African American community, therapy is still taboo. People don't want to go to, we don't want to go to counseling. We don't want to go to therapy. We don't want to sit on the sofa. They're still saying this, it's taboo. And so I am telling folk, you want to get some tools to help you navigate then. If you're not going to go sit on the sofa, grab a tool or two or few, read through them, and I promise you, you're going to get some of the nuggets that you need to help you navigate through your start. This is the starting point. That's what I like to say. This is the starting point, because this does not substitute therapy, but it certainly is a starting point for so many of us who have experienced trauma. But great victory is on the other side when you work the middle. And that middle is that process to healing. That process to healing is what's going to get us to the place of triumph. Shenita, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm looking forward to more conversations with you and all the good stuff. You all stay tuned. We will be sharing together in more conversations in the upcoming weeks. So stay tuned for that. We are on a quest to normalize healing. We're on a quest to help you heal from whatever has plagued your soul. We are committed, passionate, and ready to help you process through. Thank y'all so much for tuning in with us and joining us. Conversations for the Soul with Tameka Shelone. I am Tameka Shelone, aka the Soul Practitioner and best-selling author of From Trauma to Triumph, Healing the Unspoken Wounds. This is Conversations for the Soul. This is the first segment of Conversations for the Soul. I'll be doing this as a series as we continue to talk about From Trauma to Triumph. I believe that as you continue to hear the stories of so many women and men, their survival stories, their stories of overcoming, that it's going to help you heal, bring hope and transformation to your life. Go to IamShenitaJames.com and grab her book. Go to From Trauma to Triumph, thebook.com, and grab your copy. Thank you, guys. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Until we meet again the next time, be blessed.